What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ecom Genius Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Funderburk, founder of Instant Scale Media, and I'm excited. I think we have an incredible guest for you guys today. And as you guys know, it's my goal to bring people in power and let them bring their genius and share it with you. And I have the superstar, Mr. Omari, in the house. And you guys know me. I don't like any of the fluff. I like to jump straight in. So, Omari, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing wonderful, man. You're too kind with your words, but you know what? I'm gonna take it. I'm accepting. I'm accepting.
Look at that, man. You deserve every one of the words. And man, I'm just excited about everybody getting to know you. It's an honor to have you on. And I just like to start off by just taking it back, man. Like, were
Okay.
you always the entrepreneur type? Like, take us back. Were you the entrepreneur as a kid? Like, how did everything come about? What's your story?
Mm. That man said the genesis. The foundation is just. I grew up on chess. That's one of my foundations, one of my pillars. And so it was just how can I make one move and at the same time have it be three, four moves. And that skill I took for granted. I really didn't understand and acknowledge it. Um, and now that I'm getting older, I'm starting to use it a little bit more. The backgrounds, I come from and it hurts me to say it, but this is the reality. The typical African American home, and I think without even going into too much detail, I think we all know single mother, father non-existent, and I just saw what she went through. This was the biggest thing that I saw. The How society treated her, how she was scorned and resented, how she didn't have respect from society's standpoint until a man was around. Me being a boy, when I'm there, I see how she's not really giving attention. The customer service isn't there, the attentiveness is not there, and it's almost wanting to disregard her. Um, and then when a man is around, it's a polar opposite. They might feel a certain way, but that presence, it makes them think twice about what they do and have to change their approach. And so that's the biggest, if I'm able to sum it up, summarize it, the biggest foundational thing I saw was the effect the man has and the effect he doesn't have when it comes to presence, when it comes to being aligned with his family, being present with his family.
I love it. So, how did that impact bring you onto the journey to what you do now?
The biggest a quote I heard once is, "So as a man thinketh, so shall he be," and
Mhm.
that's really big for me, especially for children. A lot of people might not know what the black inferiority complex is, and that's essentially making you feel less than, think less than by what you see, what you hear, and what you experience. And so it goes honestly back to the image of Christ and how they depict him, even though the book is to the contrary when it comes to the type of what he looks like, his hair texture, his skin complexion. When it comes to commercials, and they show this happy family that's to the contrary of you, to the polar opposite of you. When it comes to the meaning of black in the dictionary, and how it specifically says opposite of white, dirty, stained, evil, um, tainted, opposite of white. You go to red, it's not opposite of blue. Each color has its own entity, but they made sure to mention that in there. And it's just those little minute things to where our children start to want to bleach their skin so it's lighter, where blue eye contacts versus the brown that they naturally have. Wanting to wear, and I don't see anything, me personally, wrong with it. Just we have to understand why people don't want to wear their natural hair. They want to straighten it. They want to wear weave for it to be a different um, texture than what it usually is, or give off a different feeling than what it naturally is. Of other ethnicities of what their natural hair is. So it's just those little minute things, and that's why I made the Black Excellence Gallery. It's
Mm.
essentially reprogramming our community and outside communities too onto what the Black image is, African American image is. You go on news, you know how they're gonna do. If I say violent offender, ages 18 to 24, male, most of us have a picture in our head because consistently they put those adjectives with a certain image. And so most likely, unless you're an open-minded person, you're going to think of an African American male with a fade or with locks, because that's the consistent image they continue. Tonight, they're going to show that image, I guarantee, on some news station. So it's just reprogramming us to where you see the black male as useful, as important and significant. We see the black woman as a nurturer, as healthy, emotionally, and as stable and caring, and wanting that cohesion, and the children as happy, instead of growing with trauma and dysfunctional families, because in reality that's what it is. And so it's just seeing us as entrepreneurs and as plumbers and electricians and as artists and as wives and as husbands, and not as baby mothers. I'm not saying right or wrong. I am saying progressive and regressive. And that's not progressive when it comes to the children, because now that's the
Mm,
split home where people have their own agenda instead of one agenda. And I mean, that's the reality of it. And so it's just reprogramming us to see things differently, especially for the children, to see that I can be an engineer, a truck driver. I have options other than crime, sports, and entertainment.
mm. I love that. And obviously, growing up in that,
Yeah.
and one thing a lot of our viewers don't know, a lot of my background is actually in art.
Mm.
And I was like a published comic book artist while I was still in high school,
Yeah.
started out super early. But I remember the characters I would create were Black. And I remember
Mm.
people would tell me, like, you'll never be successful because people don't
Mm.
like Black characters. Like, even my own brother told me that. He was the
Yeah.
first one to tell me that. And I'm like, why is that got to be the case? Like,
Mm.
but that inferiority is so pushed on us, even at a
Yeah.
subconscious level.
Yeah. Um, what they really, and this is what I'm learning, or have learned the hard way, and still learning, is that people want to push their agendas, ideas, and ideologies on you. So what he really wants to say is, I can't make it by using characters with that, from that ethnic background, instead of saying, I believe in you and you're doing it a different way. He wants to make you feel the way he feels. And I think that's one of the side effects of desegregation, is that we were forced into a society not designed for us from a legislative standpoint. You're
Mm,
forcing us to be inside of a culture and a community and a business, that it was illegal for us to read and write. And
mm,
that's the fabric of that's the foundation. And you're forcing us to be within people that benefit from that faction. And so I want, in a perfect world, if I'm just speaking frankly, I wouldn't want us to desegregate. I would want us
mm,
to stay separate, and then we can still do business and communicate and interact with each other on mutual grounds. um, but right now, and in the past, it wasn't on mutual grounds. And we see
mm,
the side effects now. It's where we have to have affirmative action. That shouldn't even have to be a thing. Where they get certain tax and financial benefits for having a certain um, percentage of diversity or inclusion. That shouldn't have to a Black History Month. Like, all these things are overcompensation. Really, I had wished that we had stuck on our own, um, triumphed on our own, and then we can still deal with you. I'm not saying cut you off from us. It's just now it's a different narrative and different leverage versus going to a job interview and it's six African Americans in there and you're competing for the same spot. So now you want to almost tear each other down or outshine the other one because your success is my failure, or so subconsciously most feel.
mm. That's interesting. And I really want to dig into that because
Yeah.
obviously with e-commerce, you know, what it basically did was just open up the world.
Yeah.
So how does that work and play out with you going online, but then
Yeah.
having that one focus group?
Um, I was talking to someone and they said that when there's an issue, you can spend your energy on why the issue is right or wrong, or you can show an alternative. And that's what my biggest thing is. I'm not cutting anybody off from the content I make, the narrative I speak from. Is just I care so much about my own, and my own needs me the most out of everybody. And so I'm going to advocate and push for my own and lead by example, because we need
Mhm,
more. We shouldn't have athletes and entertainers speak on our political issues. Those should not be leaders
mhm,
of our community. They should be doctors, lawyers, engineers, community activists. Those are our political leaders, because you speak from the narrative on who pays you. And a lot of
Mm,
us don't realize that an athlete should never speak on our behalf because who pays them?
mm. So would you say,
Hmm.
just from like growing up in our communities, when we see these more professional backgrounds,
Yeah.
just because the way things are portrayed, do you think we tend to downgrade these other professions and flock more to like the entertainers and stuff because that's what's highlighted? Or what's your thought process and all of that?
Um, my thoughts is it's made to be significant. It's just not as significant as the basketball football player because they mean more to the economy. And honestly, most kids want a picture of their favorite athlete than a picture of their teacher. It makes people feel better. We're more tied into feelings and emotions and wants and desires rather than what's really important. Like for instance, we value social contribution more than scientific discoveries, and that makes it to where, yeah, on Thanksgiving you give turkeys to people who probably can't cook it because they don't have access to the resources. You need about 12 hours to cook a quality turkey, at least in my opinion,
Mhm.
and that's at least. Or you can develop a boys and girls club in multiple cities where they have, this is me just brainstorming on my intention. You can have
Yeah.
arts, you can have pottery and clay. I'm sure most of them have never sculpted. They can work with painting and the difference on canvas between watercolors and ink, and teaching them those different avenues of expression. You can do dance. Basketball should be the way to get them in. Now, once they're here, we have 30 minutes of basketball and soccer and football. What we really focus on is an hour, hour and a half on these performing arts or on
Mhm.
the STEM. So you can learn how to program. You can learn how to, heighten your math and science, and you design a cell phone. How do you jailbreak a cell phone? You can
Mhm.
even bring in leaders in the community from local colleges and universities to teach once a week, twice a week, and to impart the knowledge that they've learned and paid for onto the next generation to inspire them. And I mean,
Mm.
this is me just speaking selfishly.
Yeah, no, I love it. Because one thing I've seen with our community, and which is crazy, like I had this conversation with my wife last night where we were just talking about priorities. And I told her, for me, it's like God, then my personal development, even
Mm,
above her in our marriage and relationship. Because like if
mm,
I don't work on developing me, then I
yeah,
could say, "Oh, I love you and you mean the world to me." But then if my focus on being fully committed to giving you a subpar version of myself,
mm,
then what's the use? So, but if I can develop myself, then I can be a
yeah,
better husband for you. I can be a better father for the kids. I can be a better
absolutely.
brother. I can be a better son. So I noticed in our community, I've seen a huge lack of desire to actually grow out and develop themselves and their skills.
Why would they? I mean, from their perspective, a lot of us understand the big picture. Why would they though? Who do you see that's made it? Who
Mm,
do you see that's, quote unquote famous or celebrated by society? Because most of us have a lack of self-esteem. Vanity is our self-worth. If you don't have the right shoes, the right jewelry, you're not worth anything. So our
mm,
worth is external and we buy from other communities. So why would
mm,
they? Why would they want to? I'm gonna do what I've always done. I have trauma that I don't want to address, and I'm not gonna address, and you can't make me. You coming to me talking about God, to them, and I mean, frankly, I know what God is within me, but to somebody else, God is a figment of my imagination. I heard a quote
mm,
that says, I mean, what's a king to a God? What's a God to a non-believer? And what's
mm,
a non-believer to a king? I might have skewed that, but it's just
mm,
what's what's the outside of myself. All that is imagination. It's poof. And so I just live it through my testimony, my words. What I would tell
mm,
them, um, honestly, what I would tell them was just to go look in the mirror and what
mm,
do you see? At least acknowledge the problems. Don't put a band-aid on a snake bite because on a molecular level, you're disintegrating slowly, and eventually it's going to get to your heart, and then from there it's going to spread even worse.
mm,
Um, and it's just to acknowledge it. Even if you don't do anything about it, at least acknowledge it so we're not living in denial. We're not delusional, because then we get taken advantage of even easier. Then that seeps down on
Mhm.
our children, and they get that trauma, and that's the cycle. That's a generational cycle. So at least acknowledge what's going on.
Mm, I love it because no, I agree because most people don't, and then they do get taken advantage of because then they become so
Yeah,
reliant on a system that's not designed to help them or really anybody prosper. That's a
yeah,
part of that system,
yeah.
and that's when we get into fighting for I will increase minimum wage or give me these benefits. When really it's like you could have just developed the skills and became
Uh,
reliant on yourself.
our career development in our community is awful. Um, and I had a conversation on actually the podcast. I'm taking a break away from it now, but one of the episodes I talked to a presidential candidate. He's going to run in 15, 20 years.
Mm,
And one of the things that I talked to him about was, one, the hate crime bill for us, because I feel like that should have been passed before we desegregated, just to make sure that there's accountability or at least some type of deterrence from those who don't have our best interests, especially the children. And I talked about reindustrializing the high schools, because in eighth grade I had woodshop, and even
mm,
still to this day, those some of those skills I still implement, even if it's something that's completely separate. It's just the certain time and the certain angle of moving things and the hand placement when it comes to carving. And so I want the plumber, electrician, I want the construction when it comes to brick mason. I want that in the high schools itself, like not a third party business that can supply and demand and pick who they want and monopolize the trade. I want it embedded into the schools itself, to
mhm,
where now even if they don't want to
mhm,
do it, hey, I know how to hotwire my car if I need to, because I took electrical principles 101. I didn't even
mm,
like the class and I got to seeing it, but I picked up on a few things even when I was in the back of the class sleeping or not paying attention. So that's
mm,
just one of my biggest things, to get our skills back up, even if we don't want to be entrepreneurs or this or that. At least we have the skills so we can provide for
mhm.
ourselves and our families.
I love those skills. Like I remember my cousin taking wood shop in high school, and I was like,
Hmm.
he's like, I'm gonna grow up, and this is what I'm gonna do.
Mm.
And like I remember him making this chair. I'm like, yo, this is
Yes.
one of the best chairs I've ever felt like excited. Like every time I went to his house, I would sit in that chair.
Yeah.
And it's just not the skills. So even like one skill I tell everybody they should learn is sales and
Mm.
effective communication and persuasion, because
Mm.
I don't care where you're at. Like there's no jobs. There's a sales job and people will hire you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I become super biased because when I took my first sales job, it was full commission. So it's like you either sell or you don't make money.
Ooh, you on your own.
And I developed the skills enough to the point where I knew one out of every three sales, I would close a sale.
Absolutely.
Well, they gave me at least one appointment. I was the new guy, so they held appointments from me and gave them to all the experienced people. But they gave me at least one appointment a day, 6 days a week. I said that means I'm gonna close at least two a week. I got to a
Mm.
point where I was making $1,800 per sale. So I'm like, I'm
Mm.
making $3,600 a week at 21 years old
Yeah.
in a job that anybody could have get. They hired anybody. All you had to do was sign. You're not a liability. They ain't got
Yeah.
to pay you nothing if you can't produce.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
true.
your income potential is just off the roof.
Yeah.
So whether it's those hard skills or those soft skills, man, I think they do need to incorporate that into the school.
Yeah. Because that's where, I mean, they spend more time in the school than they do with their parents in their home and in the community. And so that's where you have to put, and this is what I talked about with them. We have to put the important things in there. And that's the skills, that's the how to manage a checkbook, that's the communication and speech. Like in college, they had a speech, introductory speech, something like that. Have that in there too. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room to squeeze. If you can make room for basketball and football, you can make room for fundamental speech, in my opinion.
Yep, 100% agree. Like all these upper level math, like just have a realistic talk. Are you trying to be an engineer? All right, well, you probably don't need anything past multiplication.
Yeah, algebra 1, 2, done.
Sit.
Trigonometry and geometry 1 and 2 and calculus, this is not for you. Take those out, put it in woodshop, put it in speech, put in, even if it's the only thing is how would they pay the how they pay people to do it. And there's always the money. The military has the money. It's that's really what I would take from. I would take a little from the military. I would tax the NBA owners and the NFL owners a little bit more, and then from there, there's plenty. There's plenty of money in sports, plenty of money in entertainment, plenty of money in the criminal justice system, and it's ironic that we contribute to the most of those, all three of those. I find it to be rather ironic.
I think even if you tax them, the misappropriation of the money, tax people more, the money still doesn't go to where it should, which is ridiculous. But so I like this because I like ecom because it's a space that anybody can tap into to get a bigger market. And we're talking about these people, whether they're getting the skills and they're a plumber or they're in construction or, some type of whatever type of shop. I know you've been able to take your business and be able to create merchandise and stuff like that you can sell online, which gives another revenue source for your business.
Absolutely.
And I think anybody could do that. So I just want you to just expand on what did that look like for you, expanding and creating the merch and stuff.
Okay. Essentially what I did was I have hobbies and I just turn my hobbies into businesses, because if I'm willing to do it for free, then the months or years that I don't make any money, it is still there because I've been doing this for free. So the biggest things that I love to do is to write films, books, music. I love to teach. I love criminal law and criminal justice. And I said, okay, well, how can I develop each one on the, and I like conversations like these from a political standpoint, from an intellectual, subconscious, mental health standpoint. And then that's where the podcast came in. We address some of the issues within our community. I focus on mine because no one focuses on us. So why do I focus on anything else when I know my community needs me more than any other combined? And essentially the hardest thing I'm gonna warn people about is consistency. It's being disciplined and not stopping because you don't see it hit the account. You just have to love to do it and have that love push you forward because the money's gonna come. Money's gonna come. One of the hardest things I had to do was to wait. I had a lot of work produced. Let's say, for instance, music. I have music ready, the lyrics were mine, but the beats weren't. They wanted 65, 70% for a publishing for the beats. That's unacceptable. So let's wait and get my own beats so I own them outright and I can own the masters versus having to share. Okay, when it comes to the books, I can push the book out now, that's fine. But I haven't copyrighted it. And then I don't have the manufacturing and distribution. I don't have that system in place that I can do over and over again. And so now I'm gonna get stuck in a rut. Okay, with the film, yeah, I know I have this film written, but I'm not really sure, one, the copyright process, and then two, the type of licenses I would need to use other people's music. It's called a sync license, and then I don't have enough of my own to put in there. So I can put this money up, but I feel like long term I'm gonna end up burning my hand. And so what I had to do was keep working, keep writing, and then wait. Keep working, keep writing, and then wait, and put it to the side, like put it on a shelf. So a book, I wrote a poetry book. Okay, I'm done with it almost. It's about 90%, 95% done. Okay, put it on the shelf. Let's work on the next one. And I just kept working, kept developing to where now it's to the point to where I have a film I'm wrapping up. I should be done within a month or two. It's a 3-part series. It's going to be a film. It's going to be a soundtrack to the film. And it's going to be a poetry book that has lyrics from the soundtrack. The biggest thing I wanted to do was, if I make music and the lyrics can't stand on their own and be studied in an English language arts class, then I failed my community. It should be, if it's not able to be separated and still carry its own weight, then I feel like I'm not doing my community a disservice. I feel like I'm doing my community a disservice. So the biggest things for me was just have work people can ingest. When it's time to send it into society, they're going to say, oh, this is an interesting narrative, or I kind of like what he said. Who made it? So they're going to follow the links to find the source of it. When they get here, what can they buy? Are they going to give me a like and a follow and vanish and never see them again? Or do I have some apparel? Do I have some women's dresses? Do I have some shoes? Do I have a phone case? Do I have one of those things you put on the back of the phone where you can hold it? Do I have sweaters? Do I have button ups? And so that's where I am now, is making sure that I hold people at the website as long as possible. Social media sites, they're great. They're convenient and they're amazing. Do not depend on those, because if they
Mm,
shut you down or flag you or ban you, you lose everything. So what I recommend people to do is to get you an independent website. That's your main character. And then the social media is your sidekick. And you just interweave those, embed those as possible. And if they do cut you off, that's great. You still have the website. So
mm,
everything that you have built is still there and it's still intact. Um, get you systems. Shipping's one of the hardest things you'll do. Um, Even if you go to outside sources like print on demand, I recommend people do not have any third party links on your website unless it's like a social media embed. If it's not embedded into your site, do not have links into your website, because you want to hold people as long as possible. Because I'll give you a scenario. Okay, I saw that so and so made some music. That's cool. I'm gonna go to his website, see something. I want to buy something. Okay, I'm about to buy it after you go to a separate website. Okay, I'm looking. Okay, I found it. I want to buy this. Wait a minute. This reminds me of something else I wanted to buy from this website. They're gone forever.
mm,
And so it's just ooh, having things for people to sell, having quality product that's yours on an intellectual property standpoint, because you can pass that down to your next of kin. You can bequeath that,
mm,
and it'll always make money. Um, Find you a purpose. Like my end goal, I'm doing the films, books, and music. That's great. It feels nice. I'm going to be successful with it, or I am successful with it. The grand scheme is law school. All this is for the law school. All this is for the vocational nonprofit, to get us a building, to get me bar certified, because right now I'm a paralegal.
mm,
Um, the things I help people with, people's criminal law, criminal justice navigation, legal research, crime scene examination. Like even behind my shoulder, I have my fingerprint kit, to
mm,
where if I need to, I have a set of skills that I'm able to implement at no cost to the community. And it's just little minute things. So what's the grand scheme? Yeah, you're doing this music, you're doing these films. Are you planning on doing this forever? Okay, so let's do this, and maybe open up your own studio. Shout out to Tyler Perry, something similar to that.
mm,
What's the end goal? Are you doing this just to do it for the meantime? And so that's just the biggest thing: having an end goal, having a way to do it, and loving what you do. And in time, it'll materialize.
mm. I love it. I like you talking about having the end goal also.
Yeah,
Uh, we got I think in our community, the end goal is just, I'm just trying to get that bread. Right?
yeah,
That's often the case. And everyone looks at, and it's crazy because you see how most people pick their careers. Well, how much it pay,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
crazy. And I think, I mean, like you talked about earlier, like focus on the things that matter, especially once you make the money, you realize like, yo, there's no happiness with this. You get options, but
yeah, yeah. Um, I challenge people, and this is one of the things I do with my career development at the nonprofit. I start with the end. What do you love to do? If everything in the world paid the same, except sports and video games, but leave that to the side. What would you truly want to do if you could do anything? Well, I really want to be a marine biologist. Some of the answers I get are amazing.
mm,
It's just they don't feel confident telling anybody, because, I mean, you go to the right school and you'd say to your peers, or let people find out you want to be a physician or marine biologist, they're gonna look at you crazy. Like, how dare you want to be something of high socioeconomic status? I don't know anybody who did it, and you're not gonna do it because I feel like I can't.
mm,
And so then, well, I don't even want to do it. They're right. I'm just gonna do what everybody else is doing then,
mm,
and it's dangerous. So even if you don't feel like comfortable telling people, at least tell yourself and write it down,
mm. That's
and
cool.
work your way all the way back to where you are now. Start at the end, work all the way down into where you are now, and just follow the plan. Write it down every day, 100 times.
I love it. I tell everybody, like when it comes to like, and I don't have my kids yet, but
Mm,
like me and my wife know, like one thing we agree on is we're never going to ask our kids growing up, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? We're going to ask them, how do you want to live?
mm,
Because that's going to be more important. And I'm like,
mm,
start with that end goal of how you want to live, and then you do what's going to get you that. Because if
Mm,
what you're doing produces the life you love, there's no midlife crisis, there's no depressions, there's no anxiety, because you're living your ideal life.
mm,
But most people, I think, they're like, all right, well, they have this lifestyle of, well, man, if I could do anything, they're like, oh, I would love to be able to fly out to Hawaii once a year. And I would love to take these trips and be able to do this. Oh, and I'm going to take care of my grandparents because they're getting older. And it's like, all right, well, that's great. But then they, instead of how you want to live, they get the question, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to be a
mm,
teacher. All right, well, now you're a teacher, you make $32,000 a year. You can't take
mhm,
care of your grandparents. You can't fly. You can't do
mm,
anything. And now you're miserable. And now you're looking at all these bad things.
mm,
Someone's just like, how do you want to live?
mm,
Start with the real end goal, right? And I know that's the
mhm,
same thing you're talking about. It's like, what do you really want to do?
mm,
Because for some people, it is a career. You got that one teacher that won the lottery. He's like, great, I'm going on vacation. I'm going back to teaching.
mm.
Like that's his happiness.
Yeah. Um, I would even go a step further.
Mm,
So that person that still wanted to do it and they're a teacher, okay. You're a teacher. What are you doing from teaching to get there too? Do you have some ideas on an app? Do you have an idea on a new
mm,
patent? Do you have a film, book, or music? Because everybody loves, well, not everybody, a vast majority of society loves that. Do you have some YouTube, how to be a better teacher videos that you can monetize? Do you have a clothing line? And that's the biggest thing I want people to do is to monetize it. Whatever your skills, whatever you're good at, monetize it.
yeah.
Protect it with your copyright. Get an LLC. We could do an S corp or whatever sole proprietorship, whatever you want to do to protect yourself. And there's a separation between your personal funds and business funds because you
Mhm.
don't want to get in legal trouble when you can't differentiate because they're coming for everything.
Yep.
Um, and that's the biggest thing I would do. Protect your personal versus business. Have a separate account, even if it has 8 cents in the business account. It's still separate. So when the
Mhm.
money comes, you have somewhere to put it.
Yep.
And it's just monetize your skills, man. Everybody has skills. Everybody's great at something. If you're great at gossiping, then Wendy Williams has a gossip channel. Oprah was
Yeah.
that's a gossip channel. That's what they did was gossip. It might be productive gossip. It's still gossip. So make you a gossip channel. They have a million people. Don't. Here's the thing I would tell people: people, your viewers, the watchers, people don't know what they want until they see it.
Mm.
They have no idea. They have no idea what they want until they see it. Oh, I want that. And 10 seconds ago, they had no idea that even existed.
Hmm.
You're welcome for that.
That's awesome. I love it. So, in me being a marketer, having the marketing background,
Yeah.
Apple, oh my goodness, just their thought process and everything was just so crazy. Where they're like, all right, well, they were trying to compete with Microsoft, and most people don't realize like Microsoft made a better product.
Mm,
And they're like, it doesn't matter. We're going to make it look better. We're going to tell people it's better. We're going to tell people they want this product. And because we tell them they want the product, they're
yeah.
going to get the product. And
Yes, they
then there's
will.
like, but it's an inferior product. It's like, it doesn't matter. We're going to make it look better. And then they came up with the software update and they said, we're just going to fix it as we go,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is incredible. And I think our people, even I'm not like this major political person, but even like during the election, Joe Biden said, if you're black and you don't vote for him, then you ain't black. I was like, I wonder how many black votes he got just for saying that, just for telling people what they want to do.
That, this is what I'm learning when it comes to marketing. You have to manipulate people. Um, that's what it is. And I'm not saying positive or negative manipulation. It's still manipulation. Like when you hear commercials that say new, fast, strong, big, that's manipulation. Because now it makes you think that you want it. It changes the way you think. That's the whole point. It's not selling your product. It's just changing the way you think.
Mm-hmm. That's
And that's
solid.
dangerous. From
There's so
colors, because
many.
a lot of people don't understand. And they get psychologists and mental uh, mental health specialists to do their marketing for them when it comes to colors to make you hungry or
Yep.
seeing a car driving fast that makes them want that car. It excites them, exhilarates them. from a mental health, it's mental. That's the key of marketing is the mental aspect.
It's so mental. People don't realize when you see that red and that yellow in those fast food, those create that desire and hunger both in you. So like it ain't a coincidence that those colors are used. I tell anybody, get books like Influence by Robert Cialdini. It's a massive book. I can tell you just from that, our culture. They see a book this big, small words, they ain't gonna read it. But that book will tell you exactly how you're being influenced. And it tells you the cognitive, because it's a PhD psychologist. He was like, yo, I just want to understand why people buy and why people don't.
Yeah.
And then you learn all the influential techniques in there. So you can protect yourself because you learn how to use it. Or books like this, Trust Me, I'm Lying. It's all about a media manipulator.
Yeah.
All good marketers know how to manipulate the media.
Yeah. That's the reality of it.
Yeah. People hear news and they think because it's on the news that it has to be a fact, that all the information has to be real. Ain't nowhere it's a business.
It's entertainment.
But yeah, that's a whole nother.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they have to pay bills like anybody else. So they're gonna entertain you and tell you and feed into the narrative that they want you to have one. And then the one that makes money, that's violence and crime, is extremely lucrative.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be, most want to be informed on the weather, certain political issues, and they twist the narrative how they want to and omit certain information and facts. And then who's telling it? You have to look a certain way and present a certain way, because then you'll trust, they're more trustworthy because they look this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's part of the game, and just to acknowledge. My bigger thing is just acknowledging. If this is what it is, that's fine. At least acknowledge it, and let's not live in denial and be delusional.
Yeah.
Look, this is it like it is because it is. Okay, that's great. Now we at least acknowledge it. What you do with it, that's a different story. At least acknowledge it, though.
Yeah, that's the word. I heard the quote. They said, only 2% of people actually think, 3% of people think they think, and 95% of people rather die than think.
Yeah, I can see why they say that.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. I'm like, yeah, people, they don't think. They just do what everybody tells them to do. They just totally react. And like you said, they don't come to that acknowledgement because they don't even think about it.
Oh, thinking is a difficult thing to truly dive into, because then you have to acknowledge, then you have to make decisions and be accountable and be consistent. And they said, dude, I just want to go work. And I'm not saying, well, I am saying something's wrong with this. We're gonna be in reality, because you have children that look to you and they're gonna do exactly what you do. They just want to work, come home, and eat, watch TV, and go to bed and do it again. And that's fine when it comes to, as an individual, what you want to do. I'm talking about generationally what we're going to do. And that's where it's not okay. Because then children pick up your habits and your thought process and teach it to their children and influence others. And this is how we've ended up in this predicament, is by that same, just going through the motions, not really dealing with reality, doing what makes us feel good. Like in the Roman days, whenever they had major issues and political issues, they put on the gladiator games, a distraction to entertain the people who are fickle as is, to distract them. So now we have the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals. Now we have the Wimbledon. Now we have the Masters, the golf. And then we have the NASCAR, and we have the social media influencers, and then we have the crime and TV and movies, and it's just here so many distractions to not acknowledge what's going on. So that way, those who do, you'll be a vast minority, because in reality, the other ones really don't care. Why would they? Wow. Why would they care?
They should.
It affects the next generation. That's why.
It's crazy. I was listening to an old success talk, and this thing's from like the 70s. And this is crazy because, like, think back in the day how hard people used to work compared to how things are now. And this is back in the 70s, so they worked harder back then than we do now. But he just talks about that programming generationally and how like, man, we grow up, like we're just programmed, we just go through the motions. And he talks about they'll work, get off at 5 o'clock, come home, cut on the TV, lay back and complain about being tired. Doesn't even know why he does it. It's just because he saw his dad do it back when they used to do harder work. And now the work's progressively gotten less hard physically, but we still come home, act like we're worn out because it's our programming.
Well, yes. How would I recommend somebody to unplug? Oh, when you get home, don't touch any electronics. Put your phone to the side. No TV. Don't even put music on. And if you do, put like ocean sounds or something that is in like a 10-hour loop, so you don't have to touch that phone. And then last, because eventually you'll start to notice some things about you. You'll reach for that phone. You'll start to, because your body doesn't know what to do now. And I'm not sure. Grab a piece of paper and write about it. Let's start processing. And you do that enough times, you'll eventually be able to take a step back and really see the grand scheme and what's important. Because I do it from time to time. Every now and then I catch myself having my phone in my hand, and it's, wait a minute, I don't even remember picking this up. So what I do is I have a certain spot that my phone has to go, and it stays there. It must stay there. Do not touch it. Every now and then, maybe every hour and a half, just check it, see if I have any messages, if anybody called. If not, it can wait. And I force myself to just not touch it, because my goodness, you'd be on YouTube for 3 hours. I don't even know why I came. I don't even know why I came here. And my phone is about to die. It was at 98% when I picked it up. Now it's on 13. And it's just those little minute things that we take for granted, and we really don't understand until we truly understand.
It's crazy. People, they come to our house, and it's crazy because like we got the TV room, and people try to watch TV. It's like, well, there ain't no cable on there. You're like, what? It's like, no, why we need cable? Like, we can hop on YouTube to the TV, watch a podcast to grow ourselves, but we ain't got that. And they're looking in the kitchen, in the living room, the bedrooms. There's no other TVs in the house. You're like, where the TVs at? I'm like, there's a TV in the TV room. Like, that's where it goes. And then like people's like, all right, and they look down there, it's like, well, we don't see any tables down here. Like, where do y'all eat? In the dining room, at the dining room table, but the TV ain't up there. No, because when me and my wife eat, we do this crazy thing called talk to each other, and it just blows people's minds away.
I think the values that you have in this older is not really from this time. I think this time is family time is if we're at the table, everybody's on their phone. Family time is if we're together, we're all watching TV together or watching a movie together. And then when we get off, we're on our phones and go to our separate rooms. Like I even saw a couple at a restaurant I went to with my mother, my wife, and my kids, and the whole time they were on their cell phones, talk minutely to get organized, and back to the phone. And I think it's gonna create a barrier eventually, if not already, to where I don't have to deal with you and interact with you, and then our social skills start to deteriorate, and then our mental health will start to deteriorate, because by nature we're social creatures, even if it's minute conversation. And I think the kids, like even when I teach, the biggest thing that gets kids in trouble is their phone. They must sneak and get on that phone. And what I've done is redirected it. If I catch you on your phone, I can hold it to the end of the day, which is our policy. You can do some vocab words, or if you decide, you can help me clean up. And my goodness, the amount of vocab I've gotten is amazing, because they gotta have the phone. They have to. They have to. It's like it calls to them. Have you seen the Lord of the Rings?
I'm familiar with it.
Well, essentially, it's a urge. It's a strong urge to be called to, and whispering in
Mhm.
the shadows, and that phone is calling and whispering to them, "Come on, check me. You know, I'm right here, right in your pocket. They won't see." And I think it starts to dwindle our self-control and discipline too, because then we
Mhm.
have to have it. We can't say no to it, and then that's a gateway drug for other things that come in.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's crazy. I was talking to my mentors, and they don't have a TV in their house at all.
Hmm.
And
Ooh.
like their families are like, no, come over, spend time with us. You need to be with the family. And their rule every holiday, anytime they go see family, it's like, all right, we're coming for family time.
Yeah.
So if y'all cut that TV on, the time that TV comes on, we're packing our stuff up and we're leaving.
Mm.
Because like if we're here for family time, let's get family time. Put
Hmm.
attention on family, not on the TV.
Yeah.
And I see like their family, their whole like their household has such a strong, tight relationship because they focus on each other.
Yeah. It sounds intentional. It
Mhm.
sounds incredibly intentional. It sounds incredibly specific. So my thing is, if they focus that much on that, I know when it comes to, well, this is my opinion. I know when it comes to other facets, same thing. When it comes to career development, I know it's solid because we're intentional.
Mhm.
Focus when it comes to reading, when it comes to being organized and clean and having standards and self-respect and dignity and integrity, because we have that time with each other, we communicate. And I
Mhm.
just love it. I just love his situations and hearing things like that.
Yeah. And like you said, it is because like you said, in career development and everything, he's my mentor. Like we run businesses outside of this our full time together. Well, I'm just fully
Hmm.
self-employed, but during the day, he's Wells Fargo's #1 financial advisor, like Wells Fargo
Hmm.
wide.
Hmm.
And he's produced so well to where he doesn't have to spend all day working, to where he's
Come
like
on.
between every meeting, he's like, first thing I do is he gets up, runs and goes plays with his daughter.
Yeah.
It's like, and she has to understand, like, hey, dad's gonna come play with me if he has a meeting. He'll go do that. But as soon as that meeting's over, she knows, like, hey, my daddy's coming right back to playing with me.
Yes.
And like his wife and his daughters know, like, they're his priority. Everything
Mm,
goes to loving on them and taking care of them.
mm. That's a beautiful thing. Anybody can say it, but the fact that they know it, that's special.
Mhm. It is incredible. So cool. For the sake of time, I don't want to draw things on. I do want to end by just letting you have the floor, man, and just
Okay.
let people know where they can find you, promote whatever you want to. It's all on you.
Oh man, he said, step up to the plate. What would I tell the people, like my dying words before I fade into and turn to shadows and dust? A quote I live by is, every step I take toward my death is another step toward my success.
Mm,
And I'm gonna say it again because I know it might take some people a little back. I said, every step I take toward my death is another step toward my success. And so I step. Um, I tell people about the film. You know, I wrote the film, I let it to my children, the soundtrack, the poetry book, the philosophical poetry book, all with death in mind. Because I thought to myself, if I die tomorrow or next week, what am I able to leave behind that, one, will make them consistent revenue, and two, will provide them in ins and outs. I mean, aside from like my life insurance policy, like some intellectual property they can pass down.
mm,
And I wrote this because I wanted them to know the ins and outs of, one, what our community is dealing with, and two, the type of issues they're going to face. I wanted to show within the content, the film, some black-owned businesses too, because it's easy to put the more famous establishments in there. It's easier, and um, you get less scrutiny for doing that. But instead of having maybe a T-shirt from another brand, I'm not even gonna mention them because that's marketing. I could have a local black-owned business in there. And some of the things I focused on was communication and relationships. I feel like we don't talk to each other. We aren't upfront, and then we get in these situations to where possibly a child is on the way, and then now what? Now we're talking about what we're gonna do, and the child deserves better. I talk
mm,
about success and career development. You know, what is it that you want out of life versus just going through the motions and falling in with the crowd? Peer pressure and conflict resolution. I don't think people understand the power of peer pressure, that if everybody's doing this, they want me to, what type of integrity and consistency and stability do I have internally to where I can say no to 20 people that I value their opinion. And essentially, it's six sectors, and we're showing them relationships. We're showing them have issues with each other in their community. We're showing them how they start out this way, and then the influence of their community and other characters, and how they start to sway.
Mm,
The biggest thing that I wanted to do was take the viewer into the mind of each character. So a slight monologue or some thought process on what they're thinking at the time and why they're making the decisions they're making. That was one of the biggest things for me.
mm,
Um, and a poem. I'll even read one of the poems from the both the soundtrack and the poetry book. It's called "Why I Do It." I do it for the kids who have little hope because their parents stay strung out on that dope smoke. I do it for the kids who can't wash their clothes, so they wash their drawers in the sink with the bar of soap. I
mm.
do it for the kids who have great grades but can't focus in class, friends buried in the grave. I do it to lead my people by example, displaying positive acts that carry on and travel. We need hope, someone who knows what to do, acts of integrity that will carry through, change the way we think, act, pray, and move, while taking time to prove what we do helps us improve instead of doing what they show on the news and on the tube that paints a perspective of who deserves to lose their life and who decides who goes free. I do it for the kids who have little hope because their parents stay strung out on that dope smoke. I do it for the kids who can't wash their clothes, so they wash the drawers in the sink with the bar of soap. I do it for the kids who have great grades, but can't focus in class, friends buried in the grave. I do it to lead my people by example, displaying positive acts that carry on and travel. You can find everything at omariaa.com, omariaa.com. And thank you again for having me.
Awesome, brother. Thank you for being on the show. It was a blessing. And it's cool to just get in some of these deeper conversations,
Mm.
you know, because that's where it starts with, like you talk about that communication. It starts with these conversations, and then you can improve upon things. But if the conversations are never held,
Yeah.
then they
At
just
least
live
that
in the
acknowledgement.
closet. Yeah, at least
Yeah.
acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, awesome, brother. Well, I appreciate it. I make sure I link you in the description box. And we know once they hit your site, you ain't linking them nowhere. So y'all better be intentional
I
while
like
you're
that.
on there, because these are the things that can better your life and your future. Obviously, Omari has a huge, huge heart and passion and purpose for that development. So you guys take advantage of that. We appreciate you being on the show, Omari.
Of course.
We appreciate you guys listening. We appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you guys in the next episode.